Can you believe someone actually told me I should be grateful to just sit in the audience at my own daughter's wedding? Not only that, but it was my stepdaughter, the one I practically raised, who said it to my face. I'm still reeling from the sheer audacity of it all, and honestly, I have to ask you, was I wrong for what I did next? Tell me, would you have done the same thing if you were in my shoes? If your entire world had been turned upside down by a single, cruel remark from someone you loved? Let me take you back to how this all started, because trust me, it's a story with layers, a story about family, betrayal, and eventually, standing up for myself in a way I never thought I'd have to. My husband, Mark, and I have been married for 15 years now. When we met, I was a young woman, fresh out of a difficult relationship, and he was a widower with 2 young daughters, Sarah, who was 8 at the time, and Emily, who was 6. He was charming, kind, and incredibly devoted to his girls. I fell in love with him quickly, and almost just as quickly, I fell in love with the idea of becoming a mother to Sarah and Emily. Their biological mother, Clara, had passed away from a sudden illness a year before I met Mark, and while their memories of her were still vivid and cherished, they were also clearly missing a female presence, a maternal figure in their lives. I stepped into that role with an open heart, ready to give them all the love and support I could. It wasn't always easy, of course. There were challenges. The inevitable comparisons to their biological mother, the occasional teenage angst, but I always approached it with patience and understanding. I read them bedtime stories, helped with homework, attended school plays, dried their tears, and celebrated every milestone. I made sure they knew they were loved, truly loved, not just as Mark's daughters, but as my own. I never tried to replace Clara. I always honored her memory, talked about her fondly with the girls, and even kept some of her photos in the house. My goal was to be an addition to their lives, a loving bonus mom, a stable and nurturing force. As they grew older, our bond deepened, or so I thought. Sarah, especially, seemed to gravitate towards me. We'd spend hours talking about everything boys, school, her dreams of becoming a veterinarian. Emily was a bit more reserved, but still affectionate. I considered them my daughters, no different from if I had given birth to them myself. We were a family, a blended family, yes, but a family nonetheless, built on love and mutual respect. Fast forward to a few months ago, and Sarah, my eldest stepdaughter, announced her engagement to David, a wonderful young man she'd been dating since college. I was ecstatic, truly over the moon for her. We started planning immediately, or rather, I started planning because Sarah, bless her heart, was a bit overwhelmed by the sheer scale of wedding preparations. I took the lead on a lot of it, researching venues, caterers, florists, dress shops. I spent countless hours sifting through Pinterest boards, making phone calls, and attending meetings. I wanted her wedding to be perfect, a day she would remember forever, a reflection of her joy and our family's love. Mark was busy with work, and while he offered support, he wasn't really a details person. Emily, still in college, had her own commitments, so it largely fell to me, and I didn't mind. I loved doing it. It felt like a labor of love, a final grand gesture of my devotion to Sarah. We went dress shopping, an experience every mother dreams of sharing with her daughter. Sarah tried on dozens of gowns, each one beautiful, but none quite the one. Then she found it. A breathtaking ivory lace gown with a long train. When she stepped out of the changing room, her eyes sparkling, a wide smile on her face, I felt a lump in my throat. I teared up, picturing her walking down the aisle, radiant and happy. It was a perfect moment, a mother-daughter moment, and I cherished it deeply. Everything seemed to be going smoothly. The venue was booked, the invitations sent, the menu finalized. We were just a few weeks away from the big day when things started to unravel. It began subtly, with Sarah making small, offhand comments. "Mom, can you handle the guest list confirmations? I'm swamped." Or, "Mom, I really need you to make sure the florist understands the exact shade of blush pink. It's crucial." I brushed them off, thinking it was just pre-wedding stress getting to her. But then, the comments started to shift. During a meeting with the wedding planner, Sarah interjected, "My real mother would have wanted it this way," in reference to a floral arrangement idea I had suggested. I felt a pang in my chest, but I bit my tongue. I reminded myself that Clara's memory was important to her, and perhaps she was just feeling her absence more acutely as the wedding approached. A few days later, while discussing seating arrangements, Emily, who had been largely quiet throughout the planning process, chimed in. "You know, it's a shame Mom Clara isn't here to see this. She would have loved planning Sarah's wedding." Again, felt that familiar sting, but I just nodded, trying to appear understanding. I told myself it was normal for them to miss their mother. I was trying to be strong for them, to be the calm in their storm. But the real blow, the one that shattered everything, came during a final planning meeting at our house. It was just Sarah, Emily, Mark, and me. We were going over the last-minute details, discussing the rehearsal dinner, the timeline for the wedding day, who would sit where at the head table. That's when Sarah dropped the bomb. "So, about the seating chart at the head table," she began, looking pointedly at me. "I've decided it should be David, me, Dad, and then Emily. We need to honor our family." My heart sank. I looked at her, confused. "And where do I sit, honey?" I asked, my voice a little shaky. Sarah shrugged a casual, almost indifferent gesture that cut deeper than any harsh word. "Oh, you can just sit with the extended family in the main audience. It's fine. You should be grateful to just sit in the audience at her wedding, honestly. You're not her real mother after all." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. My breath hitched. It wasn't just Sarah's words, but the way Emily nodded in agreement, a slight, almost imperceptible smirk on her face. And Mark just sat there silent, staring at the table, as if he hadn't heard anything, as if my world wasn't crumbling right in front of him. My vision blurred and a cold dread washed over me. 15 years. 15 years of love, devotion, sacrifice, late-night talks, scraped knees, proud achievements, unwavering support, all of it reduced to just sitting in the audience. All of it erased by the brutal honesty of, "You're not her real mother." It was a punch to the gut. A betrayal so profound I could barely comprehend it. The woman I had poured my heart and soul into raising, the woman I considered my own daughter, had just publicly stripped me of my place in her life, in our family. And my husband, the man who was supposed to be my partner, my protector, my rock, said nothing. Nothing at all. I felt a surge of emotions: hurt, anger, confusion, and a profound sense of loss. I looked at Mark, pleading with my eyes for him to say something, anything, to defend me, to remind his daughters of everything I had done. But he just kept his gaze fixed on the table, a cowardice I had never seen in him before. That silence from Mark was the final nail in the coffin. It was a validation of Sarah's cruel words, a tacit agreement that I was, indeed, just an outsider, an imposter. It wasn't just about the head table anymore. It was about my entire identity, my role in this family, being dismissed and invalidated by the people I loved most. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. My entire family, or what I thought was my family, had turned on me, or at least allowed me to be turned on. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have swallowed your pride and taken your place in the audience? Would you have confronted them? Or would you have done something entirely different? I'm genuinely curious to know what you all think. I stood up, slowly, my legs feeling like jelly. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, but I forced my voice to be calm, steady though it trembled slightly around the edges. "Sarah," I said, my gaze fixed on her. "Do you really believe that? That after 15 years of being your mother, of loving you, of raising you, of planning every single detail of this wedding, I am nothing more than an audience member?" She fidgeted, a slight blush creeping up her neck. "Well, it's just Mom Clara," she mumbled, avoiding my eyes. "She's always there, in our hearts, and this is an important day for our family." "Our family," I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "What about our family, Sarah? The one we built. The one where I spent countless hours helping you with your college applications, nursing you through the flu, celebrating your first successes, comforting you through your first heartbreaks. Was that not family?" Emily piped up then, with a defensive tone. "It's not that you're not family, it's different." My gaze shifted to Mark, who finally looked up, his face a mask of discomfort. "Mark," I said, my voice barely a whisper, filled with a hurt so deep it physically ached. Are you going to let them say this? Are you going to sit there and let your wife be told she's not good enough to sit at her daughter's wedding table after everything? He cleared his throat, shifting uncomfortably in his seat. Honey, let's not make a scene. It's Sarah's day. We can talk about this later. Later? I exclaimed, my voice rising. Later, when I'm relegated to the sidelines, watching a wedding I poured my heart into, while you all pretend I don't exist. No. There is no later for this. Mark. A cold resolve settled over me then, hardening my features, stilling the tremor in my voice. The hurt was still there, a raw wound, but beneath it, a furious anger began to simmer. I looked at Sarah, then at Emily, then at Mark. The reality of the situation hit me with the force of a tidal wave. They truly didn't see me as an integral part of their family. I was a convenience, a placeholder, someone to do the grunt work, but not someone worthy of a place of honor. And Mark's silence was not just a lack of support, it was a profound betrayal. Fine, I said, my voice now cutting through the silence of the room. If that's how you all feel, then consider this my resignation. Sarah looked confused. Resignation from what? From everything. I stated, my gaze sweeping over all three of them. From being a stepmother, from being a wife to a man who won't defend me, from being a free wedding planner, chauffeur, and emotional support system, from this entire charade of a family that only values me when it's convenient. My voice grew stronger with each word. Sarah, you want to honor your real mother? Fine. Then your real mother will have to plan this wedding from the grave, because I am done. I am completely and utterly done. I walked over to the stack of wedding binders, the ones filled with countless hours of my research, my notes, my heart and soul. I grabbed them, a thick pile of paper, and without a moment's hesitation, I tossed them onto the floor in front of Sarah. Papers scattered everywhere, a chaotic mess of ivory samples, guest lists, and vendor contracts. Every single detail, every contact, every reservation, it's all in there. Figure it out yourselves, because as of this moment, I am no longer involved. Sarah's face went pale. What? You can't be serious! The wedding is in 2 weeks! Oh, I'm absolutely serious! I retorted, my voice unwavering. You wanted me in the audience. Consider it done. I won't be attending. In fact, I won't be attending any event where I'm not recognized as a valued member of this family. And honestly, right now, I don't see any event where that would be the case. I turned to Mark, my eyes blazing with a fury I had kept suppressed for far too long. And you, Mark, you allowed this to happen. You sat there silent and let your daughters disrespect me in the most hurtful way possible. This isn't just about a wedding table, this is about our marriage. And right now, I don't know if there's a marriage left to save. With that, I walked out of the room, leaving behind a stunned silence and the scattered remnants of a wedding plan. I went straight to our bedroom, packed a small bag, and left the house. I drove to a friend's place, needing space, needing to breathe, needing to figure out what 15 years of my life truly meant. The next few days were a blur of phone calls and texts. Mark called repeatedly, begging me to come home, saying he was sorry, that he didn't know what to do. Sarah and Emily also called, at first demanding to know what I was doing, then eventually, as the reality of the wedding planning, falling entirely on them set in, they started to plead. Mom, please, we can't do this without you! Sarah wailed over the phone. The florist needs to know the final count, and I don't have the contact information. I remained firm. My response was always the same. You said I should be grateful to sit in the audience. I'm taking you at your word. You wanted me out of the picture. I'm out of the picture. Figure it out. I wouldn't budge. I let them struggle. I let them experience the chaos and stress that I had shielded them from for months. It wasn't about revenge, not entirely. It was about making them understand the value of my contributions, the role I played, and the love I had given. And more importantly, it was about standing up for myself and demanding the respect I deserved. Eventually, Mark showed up at my friend's house, looking haggard and defeated. He had finally gotten a taste of the wedding planning nightmare. I messed up, he admitted, his voice hoarse. I was a coward. I should have stood up for you. I should have reminded them of everything you've done. I'm so sorry, honey. He recounted how Sarah and Emily were panicking, how the wedding was on the verge of collapsing. He begged me to come back, not just for the wedding, but for our marriage. He promised to talk to the girls, to make them understand. I listened, my heart still aching, but a small part of me felt a flicker of hope. I told him I needed to hear it from Sarah and Emily. Genuinely, that they understood why what they said was so hurtful. A few days later, Mark brought Sarah and Emily to my friend's house. They looked contrite, exhausted, and honestly, a little scared. Sarah, usually so poised, looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Mom," she started, her voice small. I am so sorry. I didn't mean it the way it came out. I was stressed and I was stupid. I didn't realize how much you actually did, how much you meant to all of us. We've been trying to put things together, and it's a nightmare. We need you." "I need you," Emily, for her part, added. "Yeah, we really messed up. It was wrong to say that. You've always been there for us, like a real mom. We weren't thinking." The apologies, while a little late, felt genuine. They finally understood the magnitude of their words and the vacuum my absence created. I looked at their tear-filled eyes, at Mark's earnest plea, and a part of me, the mother part, the loving part, softened. It was a difficult decision, but I knew I couldn't abandon them entirely, not if they truly understood. But I also knew I couldn't just sweep it under the rug. "I appreciate your apologies," I said, my voice still firm. "But understanding is key here. What you said, Sarah, wasn't just a casual remark. It was a dismissal of 15 years of my life, 15 years of love. And Mark, your silence was just as loud." I looked at them, one by one. If I am to come back, to help with this wedding, and to stay in this family, then things have to change. My place at that head table is non-negotiable. And more importantly, my place in your hearts, as your mother, needs to be acknowledged and respected, not just when it's convenient, but always. They all agreed, nodding fervently. Mark promised to make amends and to always stand by me. Sarah and Emily promised to never again diminish my role in their lives. I made them write out a new seating chart right there and then, with my name firmly etched next to Mark's at the head table. I made them promise to publicly acknowledge me at the reception, to thank me not just for the wedding planning, but for being their mother. It was a tough lesson, but it was one they desperately needed to learn. I did go back, and with my help, the wedding was saved. It was beautiful, exactly as Sarah had dreamed, and she, radiant in her dress, made a heartfelt speech at the reception, thanking me profusely, calling me Mom, and acknowledging all the love and effort I had poured into her life. Mark, too, made a very public apology, emphasizing my irreplaceable role in our family. It was a moment of healing, of reconciliation, but the sting of those words, "should be grateful to just sit in the audience," will always be a part of my story. It taught me that sometimes, you have to create a shockwave to make people see your worth. You have to be willing to walk away, even from things you love, to demand the respect you deserve. So, that's my story. It was a painful experience, but one that ultimately strengthened my family, albeit in a very dramatic way. I still wonder if I handled it the best way. But looking back, I don't think I had another choice. Like this video if you were on my side and think I did the right thing. Subscribe for more stories like this, where I share the most unbelievable and emotional Reddit tales. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'd love to hear your opinions, your advice, and your own experiences. I'll see you all in the next story.